The night was cold and silent. The kind of night when the wind carried no sound, no life, only emptiness. The human, Daniel, sat alone in his small wooden house at the edge of the settlement. He was used to silence, used to the loneliness that had followed him for years. He thought nothing in the world could surprise him anymore. But that night something strange reached his ears. At first it was faint, almost too soft to notice. A sound like a weak cry carried on the wind. Daniel frowned, setting down his cup of tea. He thought it was just the wind playing tricks, but the cry came again, clearer this time, sharp and small like the voice of a child. His heart skipped a beat. He stood up and walked to the door, pressing his ear against it. The sound was real. Someone was out there. Slowly, with hesitation, Daniel unlatched the wooden lock and pushed open the door. The night air rushed in, icy and sharp. But what froze him in place was not the cold. It was what lay on the ground. At his doorstep, a bundle wrapped in torn cloth, small and trembling. From inside came the soft cry, weak and desperate. He bent down, hands shaking, and pulled back the cloth. His breath caught. Inside was not a human baby, but an alien child. Her skin glowed faintly with a pale blue shimmer. Her eyes, too large for her small face, glowed softly like two tiny moons. She was so small, so fragile, and yet she looked back at him as if pleading for life. Daniel's heart pounded. He had seen aliens before in the city. He had traded with them, spoken with them, but never had he seen one left like this, abandoned like garbage on a stranger's doorstep. His first thought was to step back, to close the door and pretend he never saw her. After all, this was not his problem, not his responsibility. Humans and aliens lived together in uneasy peace, and raising one of their children would bring only trouble. But just as he thought of leaving her, his eyes caught a piece of paper tucked under the cloth. He unfolded it quickly. The words were written in shaky letters, but clear enough. "She is yours now, do not look for me." Daniel's hand trembled. He looked at the child again. Her tiny hands waved weakly in the air, her cries softer now. She was fading. He could see it in the way her breath came shallow. He felt something break inside him, a wall he had built around his heart for years. With a heavy sigh, Daniel lifted the bundle into his arms. The baby was lighter than he expected, fragile like glass. Yet when she touched his chest, her crying stopped. She clung to his shirt with surprising strength. He felt her warmth against him, and in that moment, he knew he could not abandon her. No matter what the note said, no matter what dangers might come, he stepped back inside and closed the door quickly. The night air stayed outside, but the weight of a new life filled the room. He placed the child gently on his bed, wrapping her in a thicker blanket. She blinked at him with wide, glowing eyes, silent now, as if waiting to see what he would do. Daniel paced the room, running his hands through his hair. What was he supposed to do with her? Why would a mother leave her baby to die like this? And why at his door, of all people? He thought of the note again. "She is yours now." The words echoed in his mind. The longer he looked at the baby, the more questions rose in his head. Was she sick? Was she dangerous? Would her people come looking for her? Or was she already unwanted by them? His mind filled with doubt and fear. Yet each time he considered leaving her outside, he felt a strange pull in his chest, something he had not felt in years, a reason to care. He sat on the edge of the bed and gently touched her tiny hand. She gripped his finger with surprising strength, and something inside him melted. He whispered almost against his will, "You are safe now." His voice shook, but the promise felt real. Outside, the night grew darker. The settlement slept, unaware that something had begun in Daniel's small house, something that would change everything. He had opened his door to a cry, but what had truly opened was his destiny. And as he looked at the baby sleeping against his chest, Daniel realized one truth. His life of silence was over. The galaxy had left him a gift and a burden, and he would never be the same again. The first light of dawn touched the horizon when Daniel finally sat down. The child had slept through most of the night. her faint glow lighting the small wooden house like a lantern. Daniel had barely slept at all. Every time her small body stirred, he felt fear rise in his chest. What if she stopped breathing? What if she cried out loud and someone heard? He had lived alone for so many years. He never thought he would care for anyone again, and now an alien child lay in his bed as if she belonged there. He rubbed his eyes, trying to convince himself this was all a dream. But when he looked over and saw her curled under the blanket, it was real, all too real. Daniel made a simple breakfast, bread and water, but as he ate, guilt struck him. He looked at the child and whispered, "You cannot eat this." He had no alien food, no idea what she needed. He thought about taking her to the city, to one of the alien traders. Maybe they would know what to do. Maybe they would even take her away. But his hand froze halfway to the door. He remembered the note. "She is yours. Now do not look for me." The words rang inside his mind. Why him? Why leave her here? It felt like a curse, a trap, or maybe a test. He didn't know which. He picked her up carefully. She was awake now, blinking at him with glowing eyes that seemed to look straight into his heart. He felt his chest tighten. "What am I supposed to do with you?" he muttered. The child only gurgled softly and clung to his shirt as if she already had her answer. When the sun rose higher, Daniel stepped outside, cradling her close. He needed food for her. He couldn't let her starve. The small market at the edge of the settlement was already buzzing with life. Merchants shouted their prices, farmers displayed their harvest, and traders from alien worlds showed strange goods. As Daniel walked through the market, people turned their heads. At first they only looked at him with the usual disinterest, but then their eyes dropped to the small bundle in his arms. Whispers spread quickly. "That's not a human child," someone muttered. "Why is he carrying one of them?" another whispered. Daniel's grip on the child tightened. He kept walking, but he could feel their eyes burning into his back. The whispers grew louder, crueler. "He's gone mad. No human should touch their cursed kind. They'll come for him." His jaw clenched. He ignored them, forcing his way to a stall run by an older alien trader. The trader's scales shimmered faintly under the morning sun. His eyes narrowed when he saw the baby. "You should not have brought her here," the trader said in a low voice. "I need food," Daniel replied firmly. "Something she can eat." The trader leaned closer, his voice sharp and filled with warning. "This is not your fight, human. Return her before it is too late." Daniel's face hardened. "She was left at my door. I won't let her die." The trader's eyes flickered. With something like pity, he reached under his stall and handed Daniel a small pouch of powder. "Mix this with warm water. It will keep her alive for now." His voice dropped even lower. "But remember my words. Her kind will not forgive you for this. They will not forgive her either." Before Daniel could ask more, the trader turned away, refusing to speak again. Carrying the pouch, Daniel walked quickly back home. The whispers still followed him, the weight of dozens of eyes pressing against him, some filled with hatred, some with fear. He felt as though the entire settlement now knew his secret. Inside his house, he closed the door and leaned against it. His breath came heavy. His hands shook as he prepared the powder and water, feeding the child slowly. She drank eagerly, her glowing eyes softening as she relaxed in his arms. For a moment, Daniel forgot the whispers, the warnings, the fear. All he saw was a tiny life depending on him. Her small fingers curled around his thumb, and he felt a strange warmth fill his chest, something he thought he had lost long ago. But as night fell, his mind grew restless. He thought of the people in the market, the way they had looked at him, the words the old trader had spoken. This was not just about feeding her. This was about survival. The baby was no ordinary child, and the galaxy might never let her live in peace. Daniel stood by the window, the baby asleep in his arms. The stars above shone cold and distant. He whispered to himself, "I made my choice." His voice was steady now. "She stays with me." Outside, beyond the settlement, unseen eyes watched his small wooden house. The choice he made tonight would not go unnoticed. The morning sun painted the streets of the settlement in gold. But for Daniel, the day carried only weight. He had barely slept. Every time the child stirred in her blanket, fear rose in him. He was not just a lonely man anymore. He was now the guardian of a life the world did not want. He held the small bundle close to his chest as he stepped once again toward the market. The baby's glow was faint but still enough to draw eyes. Daniel tried to keep her hidden under his cloak, but no matter how careful he was, the whispers started again. "There he is, the human with the alien brat," a woman muttered. "Madness. He will bring trouble on us all," someone else said. The words stung like knives. Daniel kept his head low and walked faster. He needed more food for her. He needed supplies. But what he did not need were the eyes following him. At the fruit stall, the merchant hesitated before handing him apples. The man's hands shook slightly and his eyes darted toward the bundle. "You should not be here with that," he whispered under his breath. "Take her far away before it's too late." Daniel wanted to ask what he meant, but before he could, another voice cut through the crowd, deep and mocking. "Look at him, carrying her like she's his own." Daniel turned and saw a group of men, neighbors from the settlement, their faces twisted with scorn. One of them stepped forward, jabbing, a finger toward him. "Do you think you're a hero? Do you think you can save their kind? You're a fool, human." Daniel's jaw tightened. He wanted to answer, but the child shifted in his arms and began to cry softly. The sound cut through the air, making the men step back slightly. The glow from her eyes brightened as tears welled. The leader sneered. "She will bring nothing but death. Their kind will come for her, and when they do, they'll burn everything in their path, and you—" He pointed at Daniel with a sharp finger. "You'll be the reason." The crowd that had gathered began to murmur. Some nodded in agreement. Others looked away, unwilling to take sides. Daniel felt the ground shift beneath him. He was no longer invisible, no longer just a quiet man in the corner of the settlement. He was a target. He turned away and forced himself back through the market, clutching the child close. His steps quickened, his heart pounding. The baby's cries quieted as he whispered, gently, "It's all right, little one. I've got you." But then, as he passed the old trader's stall, the alien's scaled hand reached out and caught his sleeve. The old man's voice was low, urgent. "You must leave this place, human." "They are already searching." Daniel froze. "Who?" he whispered back. The old man's eyes glowed faintly. "The hunters. Her people cast her out, but not all agreed. Some will want her dead to erase the shame. Others will want her alive for reasons you do not want to know. Either way, they will come. They always come." Daniel's stomach sank. The old man pressed something into his hand, a small carved charm. "This may hide her glow for a while. Keep her close. Keep moving." Before Daniel could thank him, the old man turned his back and refused to say more. Daniel hurried back home. His cloak pulled tight around the child. Every step felt heavier than the last. Every corner he turned, he felt eyes watching. Not just the eyes of his neighbors, but sharper, colder eyes he could not see. Back inside his small wooden house, he locked the door and sat by the window, staring out at the street. The market's whispers still echoed in his mind. Hunters. Shame. Death. The child slept peacefully against his chest, unaware of the storm closing in. Daniel whispered to her, his voice trembling but firm. "They can whisper all they want. They can hate all they want. But you are mine now. I will not let them take you." Yet even as he spoke, his eyes caught something outside. In the dirt near his door, half hidden by shadows, lay fresh footprints. They were large, heavy, not human. They led straight to his house and then vanished. Into the night, Daniel's blood ran cold. The whispers were not just rumors anymore. Someone had already found them. Someone was close. The night was colder than usual. The wind rattled the shutters of Daniel's small house, and the glow of the fire cast long shadows across the wooden walls. Daniel sat awake, his eyes fixed on the bundle resting on the bed. The child slept soundly, her faint blue glow hidden beneath the old trader's charm. For the moment she looked peaceful, innocent, untouched by the whispers and fear outside, but Daniel's heart was restless. The memory of the footprints near his door would not leave his mind. He had checked the ground again and again, large alien prints pressed deep into the soil. They had stopped right at his doorstep and then vanished. Whoever had made them had been watching, waiting. Daniel was not a soldier. He had never been a fighter. But tonight his instincts screamed at him to be ready. He kept a knife close, though. He doubted it would be enough against whatever was out there. The night dragged on slowly until a sound broke the silence. A soft knock at the door. Not loud but steady. Daniel froze. His hand went to the knife. His eyes darted to the child. She stirred, as if she, too, had felt it. Her small body trembled. In her sleep, the knock came again, this time weaker, as though whoever stood outside was losing strength. Daniel's mind raced. Was it the hunters? Was this the end already? He moved carefully toward the door, his knife ready in one hand. He pressed his ear to the wood. Then he heard a voice, faint, trembling, but filled with pain. "Please let me in." Daniel's breath caught. The voice was not human. It carried the soft tone of an alien tongue. He tightened his grip on the knife, hesitated, and finally pulled the door open. There, in the shadows, stood a figure cloaked in rags. The being was weak, swaying as if one breath could topple her. Her face lifted slowly, and Daniel saw the same glowing eyes, only dimmer, tired, broken. It was a woman, older than the child, but the resemblance was clear. She collapsed forward and Daniel barely caught her before she fell to the ground. Her body was cold, trembling with exhaustion. He dragged her inside and shut the door quickly. On the floor, the woman clutched at his arm. Her voice was strained, almost a whisper. "The baby, is she?" Daniel's heart pounded. He carried her closer to the bed. The woman's glowing eyes softened when they fell upon the small bundle. The child stirred and blinked, and for the first time Daniel saw joy in the alien woman's tired face. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "She lives," she whispered. "I feared she would not." Daniel looked at her closely. "You're her mother," he said, not as a question but as a truth. The woman nodded weakly. "I am, but I cannot keep her. They will kill her. They will kill me. They called her cursed, too small, too weak, a shame to our kind." Her voice broke. "They sent hunters, I led them away, but I cannot run forever." Daniel felt anger stir inside him. "You left her to die on my doorstep." The woman's face twisted with pain. "It was the only way. I prayed a human might find her. Humans still have mercy where we have none." She reached out a trembling hand, touching Daniel's arm. "Please protect her, even if I cannot. She is half of your blood, half of mine." Daniel froze, her words striking him like a blade. "Half human?" he whispered. The woman nodded, her eyes heavy with sorrow. "Her father was human. He is gone now, but his blood runs in her. That is why they hate her. That is why they will never stop hunting her." Before Daniel could reply, a sudden noise split the night outside, the crunch of boots against gravel. Voices, low and harsh, echoed in the dark. The hunters had arrived. The alien mother's eyes widened in fear. "They followed me. You must run. Take her, take my child and flee." Daniel's chest tightened. He grabbed the knife and looked toward the window. The glow of torches flickered outside, shadows moving closer. The hunters were circling. The woman grabbed his hand with surprising strength. "Promise me," she begged. "Promise me you will protect her. She is yours now, not mine." Daniel's throat went dry. He looked at the sleeping child, then back at the woman whose tears glowed like starlight. He nodded, his voice steady despite the fear. "I promise." The woman's shoulders sagged in relief. She pulled the blanket tighter around the child and kissed her forehead for the last time. Then she pushed Daniel toward the back of the house. "Go, they are here. You must not let them take her." Outside, the sound of the hunters grew louder, heavy footsteps surrounding the house like wolves closing on prey. Daniel's heart thundered. His choice was made. He would not abandon her, not now, not ever. The wooden walls shook as the hunters' boots pressed into the soil outside. Their voices were sharp, carrying in a tongue Daniel could barely understand, but the tone was enough. They were not here to talk. They were here to end lives. Daniel's breath quickened. He looked at the mother lying weak on the floor, her eyes burning with desperate urgency. "Go," she whispered again. "Take her and run. Do not stop." "Do not look back," the child stirred in her blanket, her small glowing eyes blinking awake. Daniel scooped her up into his arms. She whimpered softly, sensing the danger outside. The mother forced herself to sit upright, her body trembling. She clutched his arm one final time. Through the forest, follow the river. They fear the water at night. The pounding at the front door began. Wood cracked under the force. Daniel's heart pounded in rhythm with each slam. There was no time. He tightened his grip on the baby and pushed open the back window. The cold night air rushed in, carrying the smell of damp earth and pine. He slipped out into the darkness, just as the front door shattered. Shouts erupted inside the house. The hunters were in, but their prey was already gone. Daniel ran, his boots crunching on leaves and stones. The baby pressed close against his chest. Her faint glow broke through the blanket despite the charm, guiding his path like a small star. His lungs burned, but he did not stop. Each breath was a battle, each step an act of defiance. Behind him, the hunters gave chase. Their heavy footsteps crushed branches. Their guttural voices shouted commands. Energy bolts sliced through the trees, glowing lines of fire that lit the night for a heartbeat. One struck a tree beside him, exploding bark into his face. He staggered but kept running. The forest grew thicker, shadows deeper. Branches clawed at his cloak. Roots threatened to trip his feet. The baby whimpered again, and Daniel whispered, between breaths, "Quiet now, little one, I've got you, I won't let them take you." He reached the riverbank. The water glistened under the pale moon, cold and fast. The alien mother's words echoed in his head. They fear the water at night. Daniel had no time to wonder why. The hunters were closing in, their torches flickering through the trees. Without hesitation, he stepped into the icy current. The water bit at his legs, rising quickly to his waist. He held the baby high against his chest. Her eyes glowed brighter now, as if urging him forward. The hunters burst from the trees behind him, snarling. Their weapons hummed, glowing with deadly power. They stopped short at the river's edge, their eyes narrowing. They shouted among themselves, arguing. Their leader barked an order, and two of them waded forward. Daniel's pulse thundered. He pushed deeper into the current, the force nearly sweeping him off his feet. His arms shook. As he held the child above the rushing water, the two hunters splashed forward, but the rest held back, watching with unease. Then something strange happened. The baby stirred and let out a soft cry. A faint glow spread from her small body, shimmering across the surface of the river. The water itself seemed to answer, rippling with light. The hunters froze, their eyes wide. Fear flickered across their faces. One of them shouted in alarm and stumbled back. The leader roared in anger, but even he hesitated. The river glowed brighter, the baby's light pulsing in rhythm with the rushing water. Daniel did not understand it, but he knew it was saving them. Using the moment of hesitation, he pushed forward, letting the current carry him downstream. He staggered onto the far bank, dripping and breathless. The baby clung to him, her small fingers gripping his shirt with surprising strength. Behind him, the hunters raged but did not cross. Their shouts echoed through the forest, promising they would not give up. Daniel collapsed against a tree, gasping for air. The baby nestled against his chest, her glow fading back to a soft shimmer. He looked down at her, his chest heaving. "What are you?" he whispered. But she only blinked up at him, innocent, fragile, yet powerful in ways he could not understand. The sound of distant horns echoed through the night. The hunters were regrouping. They would circle, they would not stop. Daniel knew this was only the beginning. He tightened the blanket around the child, his jaw set. "They'll have to go through me," he muttered. The forest was dark, the river behind him glowing faintly where the baby's power had touched it. Daniel rose to his feet, every muscle aching but his resolve stronger than ever. He had made his choice. The child was his now, and no matter how many hunters came, he would fight far away. Under the shadows of the trees, unseen eyes watched. The hunters were not the only ones who had noticed the child's light. Something else was moving in the dark, something even Daniel could not yet imagine. The forest was silent after the chase. Only the river murmured behind him, glowing faintly with the memory of the child's strange power. Daniel leaned against the rough, bark of a tree, his breath still ragged. His arms ached from holding the baby through the rushing current, but he did not let her go. The child lay wrapped in the blanket, her small chest rising and falling. Her glow had dimmed again, but Daniel could not forget what he had seen. The river had answered her. The hunters had feared it. He stared down at her tiny face, his voice low and uncertain. "What are you really?" The night crept on. The stars glittered cold and sharp above. Daniel forced himself to move deeper into the forest, putting as much distance as he could between them and the hunters. Every snap of a twig made him tense. Every shadow looked like an enemy. Yet the child slept peacefully in his arms as if trusting him completely. By dawn, exhaustion pulled at his body. He found shelter beneath a rocky cliff where roots grew thick, making a small hollow. He laid the baby gently on the ground and covered her with the blanket. Then he sat nearby, knife in hand, watching the forest with weary eyes. It was then he noticed the marks on the baby's skin, faint lines that shimmered like silver under the morning light. They pulsed softly, as if alive. Daniel reached out and brushed his fingers across them. The baby stirred, and the marks glowed, brighter, spreading from her arms to her chest. Daniel's breath caught. He pulled his hand back, but the glow did not stop. It grew, warm and steady, filling the hollow with light. The baby opened her eyes, and for a heartbeat, Daniel swore. He saw not just a child, but something greater, something powerful. Suddenly, the glow burst outward. A ripple of energy spread across the ground. The roots above trembled, leaves shivered, and even the air felt alive. Daniel shielded his eyes, fear and awe mixing inside him. The glow faded slowly, leaving only the baby's soft whimper behind. She looked at him as if nothing had happened. Daniel's chest tightened. He remembered the mother's words, half human, half alien. This was no ordinary child. Her blood carried something neither species fully understood, and it made her dangerous, it made her hunted. Before he could gather his thoughts, a sound reached his ears. Movement in the trees. Heavy footsteps, slow and cautious. The hunters were not far. His hand tightened on the knife, but he knew it would never be enough. The baby let out a soft cry, her glow flickering again. Daniel scooped her up, whispering urgently, "Not now, little one. Please, not now." But the glow only grew brighter this time, filling the hollow with a light that could not be hidden. The hunters broke through the trees, their weapons raised. Their eyes widened at the sight of the baby glowing in Daniel's arms. One of them shouted in fear. Another hissed in their alien tongue, but their leader snarled and stepped forward. Daniel backed against the cliff wall, holding the baby close. His heart pounded. He was cornered. There was nowhere to run. Then it happened. The baby's glow flared so bright it blinded them all. A wave of force erupted, throwing the hunters back as if the earth itself had rejected them. Trees shook, stones rolled, and the ground cracked beneath their feet. The hunters cried out, stumbling in terror. Their weapons clattered uselessly to the ground. Daniel stared in disbelief. His arms shook as he held the child. Her tiny body was the source of power he could not explain. She was crying now, her small face twisted with effort. Yet with every cry, the energy pulsed outward, forcing the hunters to retreat numbly. The leader roared in rage, but fear flickered in his eyes. He signaled the retreat, and the hunters vanished back into the forest. Their shadows disappeared among the trees, leaving only silence behind. Daniel sank to his knees, cradling the baby against his chest. "You," he whispered, his voice trembling. "You saved us." His hands shook as he realized the truth. This child was not weak, not cursed. She was something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. The baby's glow dimmed again, and she nestled against him, exhausted. Her small hand clutched his shirt. Daniel pressed his forehead against hers, whispering, "I'll protect you no matter what. They fear you because they don't understand, but I will never fear you." As the forest calmed, Daniel lifted his head and looked at the rising sun. He knew the hunters would return. He knew whispers would spread faster than fire. The child's secret was out, and now the galaxy would come for her. But he also knew one more thing. He was no longer just a lonely man with nothing to live for. He was the shield between this child and the world, and he would fight no matter the cost. The forest was quiet again, but Daniel knew silence was only a mask. Behind the trees beyond the horizon, the danger still lived. The hunters had been driven back by the child's secret light, yet they would not forget. They would return, stronger and angrier. Daniel held the baby close as he climbed the slope of the hill. His body ached from the long night, but his resolve had never been stronger. The child rested against his chest, her faint glow hidden once more beneath the old trader's charm. Her breaths were soft, steady, as though she trusted him more than anyone in the world. When he reached the ridge, he looked back at the path he had taken, the broken trees, the glowing river, the footprints of hunters fading into the soil. It was as if the forest itself had been scarred by the night's battle. He knew he could not return to his small house by the settlement. His old life was gone, burned away with the hunters' torches. He whispered to the child, "It's just us now, little one. Just you and me." His voice trembled, not with fear, but with the weight of the promise he had made. For the next days, he traveled far from the settlement, deep into lands most humans avoided. He carried the baby across rivers, through valleys, and into caves where he built small fires for warmth. The world was harsh, but the small alien child softened it. Every time she clutched his finger, every time her glowing eyes met his, Daniel felt strength he did not know he still had. But the journey was not without hardship. In villages he passed, people stared, some whispered, some turned away. A few looked at him with fear and disgust, yet not all were cruel. One old woman gave him bread without a word, leaving it on a stone where he could take it unseen. Another farmer pointed him toward safe water, pretending not to notice the bundle in his arms. It was clear to Daniel that the world was divided. Some feared the child, some pitied her, but none could understand her. Only he, who had seen her power, who had seen her innocence, knew the truth. She was not cursed. She was not weak. She was hope. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in orange fire, Daniel sat by the river again. The child stirred in his arms, her faint glow reflected in the water. He spoke softly, almost as if to himself. "They will keep coming for you, but they will find me first. I am your shield now. I am your family." The baby gurgled softly, reaching up to touch his face. Her small hand rested against his cheek, and Daniel felt something inside him shift. For years he had lived in silence, surrounded by loneliness. But now, in the fragile weight of this child, he had found meaning again. His thoughts drifted to the mother, the desperate woman who had knocked on his door. He remembered her final words, her plea, "Promise me you will protect her." Daniel closed his eyes and whispered, "I kept my promise." The stars blinked awake above, cold and distant, yet Daniel did not feel small beneath them anymore. He had a purpose that stretched beyond himself, beyond his house, beyond even his people. He had become the guardian of a secret the galaxy would one day know. The baby yawned and closed her glowing eyes, resting peacefully. Daniel smiled faintly. Though his heart carried the weight of battles yet to come, he stood lifting her gently and looked toward the horizon. There would be no return to the quiet life he once had, no safety in the shadows. He would walk into a world of danger, of whispers of endless hunters, but he would do so with her in his arms, and that gave him courage as the night deepened. Daniel whispered a final vow, his voice steady. "They may call you cursed, they may call you dangerous, but to me, you are a gift. I will fight. I will protect. I will love you as my own." And so, under the starlit sky, a lonely man and an abandoned child began their journey. Together they walked into a future unknown, bound not by blood alone, but by choice, by sacrifice, and by a promise that would echo through the stars. A new beginning had come, not just for Daniel, not just for the child, but perhaps for the galaxy itself.